Welcome back to Transform Kenya Forum, and the focus is on manufacturing in Kenya. Now, one of the key tenets when you talk about manufacturing is power, energy. And now we have even graduated. Now the conversation is not just about energy, it's about cleaner energy, more efficient energy. And at this particular moment, I understand a lot of companies are moving and manufacturers are moving towards cleaner and more sustainable ways of powering their manufacturing endeavors. And right now, Jasmine Murani joins us with more in this regard. Good evening, Jasmine.
Thank you. Noah, this is the 9th Clean Energy Expo and Conference held by the Kenya Association of Manufacturers every year. And the motivation for the switch is not just to cut costs, but also to ensure sustainability in production. Kenya Association of Manufacturers saying it's all about people, planet and economics. Now, the government of Kenya is a signatory to the Paris Agreement, and what this means is that the country has embarked on a journey to sustainable energy in the future. Now, some of the goals that the Kenyan government has put in place include reducing carbon emissions by 32% by 2030. They also want to achieve universal energy access by 2026, and they also want to ensure that 100%, or rather that Kenyans have 100% access to clean cooking by 2028. Now, all said and done, Noah, the heart of the conversation is in energy for manufacturing. And to have this conversation, allow me to talk to one Sylvester Makaka. He is a senior energy advisor at the Kenya Association of Manufacturers. So the first question we're going to address is to paint a picture of the situation at the moment in regard to availability of energy for manufacturing processes. What is the picture on the ground?
Let me address this question, Jasmine, from the electricity point of view. Kenya has been growing its infrastructure, and over the recent past, the focus has been on growing the renewable energy space. We've had solar coming, we've had wind coming, and we've had a lot of investments in the geothermal sector. And of course, we've had, on the hindsight, we've had challenges in climate affecting now our hydro stations. That being the case, then it means that even as we've grown the generation capacity, we're still having challenges on availability to go 100% green. And that means that over time, we've had to introduce in some thermals that are complementing especially the variable renewables, solar and wind. So our grid today in terms of energy, we've crossed the 80% mark going to 90 green, but we still have some element in terms of thermal generation. Having said that, then we moved now to the infrastructure. And the reason being that you may have generation, but if infrastructure is not robust, then it means you'll have a lot of intermittency, interruptions, and all that. And so we need to focus more on infrastructure so that we can deliver power where it is required. For the record, I think our generation capacity has crossed the 3,000 mark, going to 3,300, 3,400 maybe, but our demand is still at around 2,200. So there is a need to accelerate both demand and accelerate both generation so that we can grow the economy to the 5,000, 10,000 level. But that will come when the infrastructure can be able to support consumption. We are only looking at consumption as the key to unlocking the full 100% utilization of the assets we have, so that then the price and cost can be commensurate to what we have as investments. Thank you.
Okay. And talk to us about the cost of power for industrial purposes. I know the last time I saw you, we were in Parliament and you were saying the private sector might have to shun KPLC altogether and look to other solutions because of the cost of power for manufacturing. So maybe get into that. What is the situation in the country at the moment?
We look at ourselves as a competitive economy, competing in both East Africa, the Africa market, and global market. So when we look at ourselves as a competitive economy, then we look at where then are we sourcing our products. And our products are coming in from China, our products are coming in from the rest of East Africa, and of course we target to hit the Africa market. So if we compare our prices to what is in the region, we are the highest in the region. At the current price of, depending on the dollar rate, at the current price of around 20 US cents per unit average price, we are comparing ourselves to Tanzania, Ethiopia, Uganda, and even Egypt, who are below 10 US cents. And that means that at the starting point, we are already 4 times more higher than the regional market. If we compare ourselves to China, then you know where we are. We are much higher than China. So that gives us already a disadvantaged starting position. It means our cost, based on energy cost alone, is already 5 times more than the market. And that makes our products uncompetitive. So we need to look at then what brings our costs higher. Is it because of our energy mix? If we look at our energy mix, we say that yes, we are 80–90% green. So what is bringing our costs higher? It's inefficiency. So we ask ourselves, if generation is a global number, we know it, why should we then not go for generation because it works out cheaper for us as manufacturers? If the distribution network is making it more expensive, isn't it then better to take power where it is required and make it cheaper?
Okay, and how is the industry currently surviving the high cost of power? What are the steps that some of the manufacturers under your umbrella have had to take to sort of survive the prevailing predicament that is extremely high costs of energy?
Great question, Jasmine. Survival is the key word. And by survival, I spoke to alternatives. Alternatives is that there are 2 requirements that we are moving towards. One is that how do we transition manufacturing to green manufacturing so that we reduce on the carbon footprint on the pathway to low carbon. And then how do we reduce on energy cost? So because what is available to us is basically in the renewable energy space, manufacturers are doing 2 things, fundamentally 2 things. One, embracing efficiency so that they can do what we call the negawatt, reduce on their consumption by freeing more to the grid. Number 2, we are investing in solar as renewable energy resource so that even if we get 10%, 20%, and we reduce on the overall energy bill, it works out for manufacturers.
Okay, and you mentioned something about transitioning to clean power, which is essential. What is the industry doing to sort of make that shift as smooth and as fast as possible?
Kenya is advantaged in the sense that already we are talking about 80–90% green. So it means that we are looking at other alternatives to make it to cover the 10% that we are not able to cover through the grid. That 10% will then be touching on basically renewable energy in all spheres, whether it is the thermal petrol products in running our boilers. We want to switch. There is a conversation about green hydrogen. There is a conversation about biomass taking over from thermal boilers. There's a conversation about solar water heating. There's a lot of conversation about renewable at the manufacturing stage. And that is the pathway that we think will answer to this question on green transition. Because green transition is not just a local conversation, it's a global conversation. And we need to ask ourselves, what are we doing about it? We cannot just say government will do. So greening manufacturing is much more than just electricity and energy. It cuts across.
When we talk about lowering the cost of power for the industry, what can the government do? And I know we had a lot of conversations around the finance bill time. So just tell us, as things stand now, what can the government do to sort of ease this burden of the cost of power on the industry?
Jasmine, government is government. And government can take a deliberate decision for two reasons: to incentivize investments and retain investments that are here and attract even more. That's what government should do: incentivize and attract. Because we could be crying, but why are we crying? Because the costs are higher. For instance, if you take the element of tax alone, if you reduce even by 1 shilling the cost on tax alone, it is 10 billion plus to the industry, just 1 shilling. And that's not a very big burden. So we can look at the taxation around energy. And why am I saying this? Energy must be treated as an input cost. And input cost cascades. If you make it higher, it cascades through the system and up to the pricing. Attracting investments is key to the growth of energy sector. Stifling investments will basically be counterproductive to ourselves, because then people will scale down, people will move to other destinations, people will import to consume instead of manufacturing. So we need to look at that as an advantage area to consider and expand the consumption space. Our biggest challenge today is asset utilization. And for sure, if you don't utilize your assets, your costs will go up. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. There you go, Noah. You had it right from the industry, saying that energy needs to be relooked at, and the government needs to do a bit more in ensuring that the cost of energy comes down, especially for industrial use. My name is Jasmine Murani. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Jasmine Morani, and thank you to you too. All right, but Sylvester has mentioned something very interesting while looking straight to the camera. He said, government is government, and they can make decisions that they can transform this sector. So, Dr. Shem, looking at energy conversation. That's just one key input when it comes to, if we lower, can have a lot of impact in the manufacturing sector. From where you sit, especially being a player in this industry, how burdensome is this issue of power? And do you think, are you going the green way? Have you put solars in maybe your plant that you run in manufacturing?
Not yet putting any solar. We are still depending on KPLC, it's energy. Yeah, energy is very high. In fact, previously it's like if you buy 1,000 shillings, it seems like almost like 40% is gone. So now if you buy 1,000 shillings, it's go down. It also affects the industry. It really affects the industry because in manufacturing, your mixers, your machines, printings, and all those kind of things, you need energy. Especially when you are in manufacturing, maybe not all of the things you get it locally. There are some you are sourced from diaspora to come. So, those raw materials you are importing them from diaspora, it come and hit the taxation. The dollar rate is high. Before even that cargo leave the origin to destination, the dollar has already increased. Then it's reached here also, the tax is so high. Then you go back to now manufacturing to process these things. You see labor intensive, talking about energy, talking about other tools also or raw materials which you need locally, So something that you expected it to be like maybe 10 shillings, you find out that it's already 18 shillings. So now you became a bit shaken because you feel like, how am I going to sell this?
Yes.
You see, in fact, these are the things which we have even come out to decide to empowering women, because now we look at it like it's better we work with women, give it back to the community, train them how to do little things that matters. Looking at when you talk about manufacturing, it's a big industry. But cosmetics is one of the greatest in the manufacturing. So we have so many good things in Kenya. that can use as cosmetics. We actually don't need people to import things from diaspora to bring them here. You know, when you go to hospital and you need, a doctor has to prescribe some medicine for you. Most of the time they ask you, do you have any reaction to this medicine? And you said no. Have you ever gone to any supermarket buying any cosmetics and anybody asks you that question? It's not there. And nobody has time to read. It's the scent and packaging. I like it. So our women, some of them are getting tropical diseases. Our kids are getting tropical diseases, cancer, and so and so and so on. Because we don't know how those products even manufacture, the kind of chemicals they play in. KEPs will go in, they'll pick a piece of it and test. But the rest is huge. You never know. So when we talk about energy, energy affects everything.
Okay.
Immediately you increase fuel, you know. It affects everything.
All right.
So if we can have, our gentleman said government is government, and government will remain government always.
Okay.
But what we want is government to take care of the people, because the people also are part of the government.
All right.
And the voice of the people and their input is always in the hands of the government.
Okay.
So it's government have to take care of these. You know, taxes are high already, no problem. Can the energy come down?
Okay.
Especially KPLC.
Okay.
Can it come down so that, yeah?
To make it more
Exactly.
affordable.
Exactly.
Prof, I know after hosting the Africa Climate Summit in the country, the conversation has been the green transition, and even in the manufacturing sector, that is becoming a very huge conversation. And it seems to be an alternative.
Yeah.
How low-hanging a fruit is it, especially for those who dominate the manufacturing value chain, to be able to adopt some of these alternatives other than what we have in the moment?
Yeah, thank you very much. But I'll start with a quote of government is government. As a scholar in economics, there's somebody called Douglas North who won the Nobel Prize for economics. Mm-hmm. He says that a government was not meant to be efficient, was not born to be efficient, so it will never be efficient. Government is just meant to be functional. And that's what it is. So government is functional, it's not efficient. So those wishes are just wishes, they are not horses. But that's where the opportunity you're talking about is. If Kenya Association of Manufacturing is concerned about manufacturing, why, if the cost of energy is that main thing that affects the competitiveness of manufacturing, why don't they manufacture energy? Must it be government? And I think for me, that's why I'm trying to think out the box. And how can the government challenge them and say, okay, you are complaining about the cost of energy of Kenya Power, and my dear colleague there has said that generation is not the problem, the issue is transmission. The inefficiency is the transmission, which is Kenya Power. What is this Kenya Power? Must we have Kenya Power? And I told you, there's nothing new under the sun. I was doing my PhD in Spain, and in Spain, there's what you call a gas company, which you can cook using gas, you can light bulbs using gas, you can do everything using gas, and that's different from another one which is about the geothermal. For example, the hydroelectric energy. So they have decided to select the sector, segment the sector whereby there is no aggregator like Kenya Power, whereby whether you have hydroelectric, whether you have geothermal, and in fact there's another bill which I'm happy that it has not passed. It was generated by Uhuru government, whereby even if you construct solar, you still need to pay Kenya Power some money. And that was, I'm sure you know that bill, isn't it? There's also something very strange here, that even if you dig a borehole in your home, where you fetch water using borehole from your house, you still have to pay Nairobi Water Company for drawing water, which you have generated a borehole. Isn't it? It's self-pay, isn't it? So I'm trying to say, how can we transform some of these policies to be friendlier to the people who can generate and transmit?
All right.
In some countries, there's somebody who generates, and there are more people transmitting, so there's no monopoly. If I was the president, I would divide the Kenya Power into Kenya Power 1, Kenya Power 2, Kenya Power 3. Then you decide which Kenya Power to deal with. The one which is most efficient, you take them.
Okay.
In Nigeria, there's a professor in the University of Lagos who came up with how you can use natural gas to power manufacturing in places like Lekki, Lekki, the one in Lagos. Those are examples which exist in Africa, not even going to Europe.
Prof.
And we can actually, yes?
Yes, of course, in the interest of time, because we want to take a break.
Yeah.
I know you asked a very pertinent question to the manufacturers. Are you manufacturing power now?
Yes.
So Prof has responded like a French ruler one time was asked that there is no bread. The population has no bread. And the Prof said, and the ruler said, why can't they eat cake?
Yeah.
But nevertheless, I think that transition is happening.
Yes.
But let me also say government of Kenya has done well in terms of transitioning from thermal, and many years ago, you're producing almost all the power from thermal, to 90, 80, 90% green, right? Which is commendable. Now, what Makaka was saying is that now we need to go to the next level of also greening transmission. And perhaps also go to what Prof is saying, open up this space.
Okay.
Open up this space. If you tell people today that you open up the power space, because power should be looked at as the road, as the airport, it is infrastructure. It is not a profit center. It is supposed to enable production. So make it efficient, open it up, if we can be allowed to install as much as we want. Because you see, the law today allows you to install up to 1 megawatt, unhindered, 1 megawatt of your solar. But you see, most of these factories run on more than 1 megawatt. If you need to go beyond 999, you need now to start getting licenses from EPRA. Once you do that, there are other challenges that have come up, that the county physical planning departments are not allowing you to retrofit your roof so that then you can install power. So this is a leaking pipe, as I said. So, and that's what I was saying. As a country, and power is just one of them. We have many regulatory agencies that overlap each other.
Yes.
Everyone is raising money. Everyone is collecting money. What we're lacking is a very consistent industrial policy that says, Kenya, we want to be a manufacturing hub. And as the world is reorganizing their supply chain because of COVID-19, and so that offshoring your manufacturing to only one side of the globe, it's extremely risky. Now, and Africa is poised to benefit. But how is Kenya poised? How is Kenya strategically positioning itself to tap that potential? We have Dongo Kundu, we have Naivasha, we have all these other SEZs, but those are hardwares. Where is the software? Software is that when a manufacturer sitting in China or in Bangladesh or in India or in the US or in the UK go online and see what are these incentives that Kenya is offering. And that also, they also look at what the already in people who are manufacturing are talking about.
Yes.
If you go to the newspaper, people are talking about power, taxes. Who is going to invest?
That's the big question, indeed. And Prof, we are taking a break, yeah? But you've just been accused to be, the Queen Marie Antoinette of, she said if you don't have bread, you should have cake.
But if you want good food, you must be a cook.
Definitely.
For them, they want cheap power, but they don't want to produce it.
Exactly. But he said, to be fair to him,
Yes.
they're transitioning. Yeah, it is a journey indeed.
Yeah.
But as you say, it's very important
Yes.
that we give it time.
Yeah.
That is hardware.
Yes.
What is the software? That's where they're
And
saying
that's why I
the
told about
challenges.
young people
Yes.
can solve this issue.
Young people can solve this issue.
Yes, I believe in the young people.
And I'm glad even this particular panel is very young.
Yeah.
As you can tell, we are part of that solution.
Yes.
But we take a short break right here
Yeah.
on Transform Kenya. I remember the conversation is touching on manufacturing. When we come back, we'll be having the final round. In terms of now that we are breaking, it is sort of your call to action. Yeah? As we finish up this discussion. But right now, Transform Kenya Forum takes a short break. We'll return with more. Stay tuned.